Samson Mow just revealed that the world's fourth largest economy is teetering on the brink, and government officials may be eyeing Bitcoin as the solution. Various sources place Japan's debt to GDP somewhere between 230 to 250%. And for decades, it's been the textbook example of infinite debt without consequence. But every important metric seems to indicate that time may be running out. Now, politicians and lawmakers are openly discussing a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and the implications go far beyond Japan to the US and every other debt laden nation. Today, we'll look into the data spelling disaster for the region, the recent major move from Trump administration that mirrors Japan's policies, and how Bitcoin could fix, well, some of it, maybe not all. Smash that like button and stay tuned. I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions, and this is your weekly session. I want to welcome to the stage my co-host with the most, Mr. Nathan Fitzsimmons, a Bitcoin mentor. How's it going, buddy?
Pretty good, sir. Pretty good, sir. I see you're back on the road, always traveling these days. Did you happen to see that Google's looking at basically no KYC apps? We're having no KYC apps going forward.
Yeah, that is horrendous, and we need to discuss that and arm people with some solutions, how they can navigate that. Because I always thought that Android would be the safe place. Maybe not. Maybe not anymore. Yeah, it's unfortunate. But let's get into this Japan thing and what Samson Mow had to say just recently. This is a tweet from him. I'll get us off to the side here and make us pretty. Okay, so Samson Mow. This is translated from Japanese, but he said, in Tokyo, I had a very meaningful meeting with Representative Kamiya of the Senseito Party and Representative Tamiki of the Democratic Party for the People. Both parties have long had a deep understanding of Bitcoin, so this exchange of opinions was extremely smooth. Representative Kamiya had previously raised the proposal in the Diet for Japan to hold Bitcoin reserves, reflecting the Senseito's party's emphasis on sovereignty first, and called for tax system reforms. Additionally, Representative Tamaki had previously proposed reducing capital gains tax on Bitcoin to 20%. I'd say better than nothing, I suppose. But the better part, and exempting small swaps and settlements from taxation, thereby treating Bitcoin fairly under the new law. I think that would be very important. I mainly focused my explanation on the limited opportunities for governments around the world, to accumulate large amounts of Bitcoin for strategic Bitcoin reserves. I hope to have further opportunities for exchange of opinions in the second half of the year. Again, this him quoting a tweet from Jan 3, his company here, with the various representatives that he was with. So before we kind of dive into implications of this, let's take a look at the story with Japan. Why are they in such dire straits, and like how bad is it? So first off, again, Japan government's debt to GDP. So how much debt do they have versus the gross domestic product, the productivity of the entire economy? And it's somewhere between here, just from Google, between 215 and 260%, which is insane. So like all of the revenue that the entire country earns over the course of a year, their debt is two point something times that. They could spend every bit of money for 2.5 years, and that's how long it would take them to pay off their debt. It's like if you had a household income of $100,000 and you owed 250 grand just in general expenses. Or now let's talk a little bit about how the government has been handling this. So to prop up the economy, the government of Japan, they basically own 7% of the entire Japanese stock market. mostly through ETF holdings. And furthermore, they basically own 52% of all domestic government bonds. So basically, like they're the main buyer of government bonds. If the government issues debt and says, "Hey, would you like to buy our debt for us to pay you back?" Most of that is the Bank of Japan printing money and buying those bonds. You can see the breakdown here. The Bank of Japan far exceeds everything else. The next closest buyer is life insurance at 13.4%, basically a quarter of what the Bank of Japan is doing, which is crazy. Now, because of that, there's obviously major issues here in that if debt costs go up, they balloon quickly because there's so much of it. And so we've seen the 30-year treasury is jumping to 3.23%, the highest level in history. That's not good for Japan when they're trying to pay down some of that outstanding debt. And we can see it. This is an article from just a couple of days ago. Japan Ministry to request record sum for debt servicing costs they've seen in a draft. Furthermore, because there's monetization of the debt, they have to do that by creating new currency units. And so the Japanese yen has not been having a good time. You can see here over the past 5 years, the yen was around 100 per $1, and now it's sitting up at 146, 147. So basically, like half the value of the currency. It's become dropped by 50% or so. Now we were kind of looking in before this show, like in how many different ways could this go wrong? And it's basically like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And so like what would make the debt unpayable? So sustained inflation. If inflation stays above 2 to 3%, while the Bank of Japan keeps yields capped, the yen can collapse and it would destroy purchasing power and it would trigger capital flight. You could have a loss of market confidence if the domestic buyers like banks and pensions refuse to keep on grabbing those bonds. The Bank of Japan is forced to monetize everything, basically buy all of the debt and create money to do so. Rising rates also wouldn't be good because if they want to raise rates to stop the yen from collapsing, even to 3 to 4%, it would make interest costs exceed tax revenue. So this is the craziest stat. At 3 point something, I know, Nathan, you did like back of the napkin math, but at around 3%, 3.5%, the debt service on their 1.2 quadrillion yen or 8 trillion US dollars debt would exceed 30 trillion yen per year. And that is roughly the entire current tax revenue base. So like we're talking low single digit average interest, and they would be screwed. All of their taxes would go directly to servicing the debt. And then, of course, any sort of external shock, energy crises, geopolitical events, global bond sell-offs. Luckily, there's no inklings of any sort of crises or geopolitical events going on anytime soon. So I'm sure they'll be fine in
Totally
that
fine.
department. Yeah, totally fine. So how are they dealing? What are some possible ways that they could deal with this? I mean, there's not much, but I think one of the Hail Marys that they're looking at here from Zero Hedge, they're launching the first yen-based stablecoin. Now, we were talking before this, Nathan. What did you say about a yen-based
My first and
stablecoin?
only question was, who the hell is going to buy yen-based stablecoin? Who is this for? I have no idea. Any participants who are doing the yen carry trade probably have enough banking infrastructure and the necessary connections to get that money out. Like, really, who is going to be the buyer of the yen stablecoin unless it's maybe forced on the population? On that same note, I was checking out the previous graph and it showed like 6% of the bonds are being bought up by foreigners. Who are the foreigners buying Japanese bonds? Why are you doing that? Please explain this to me. I'm sure there's a valid reason, and my lack of economic knowledge is completely showing here, but they just completely caught me off guard that even 6% were getting in there.
Yeah, it's wild, and so I want to kind of take this story and and begin to eke it out to other economies. So this is a report done by Hirschman Capital, and there's this staggering stat that since the year 1800, 51 out of 52 governments with a debt to GDP exceeding 130% have defaulted. The lone exception is Japan, whose situation we've just described. So basically, by them buying bonds through their central bank to a point of them like being the majority buyer compared to everyone else doesn't even stack up to what they're buying. They've been able to kind of skirt it along, but they're kind of reaching the end of their rope. Like, again, between 3 and 4% interest rates, and they're hooped, and their whole tax revenue is gone. It's not looking good. So 130% debt to GDP, 51, basically 98% of those governments have defaulted. And so where does the US sit with this stat? The US, as of the end of last year, is sitting at 124.3% debt to GDP, which is wild. And there's more nations that are in that realm. So that doesn't tell a very good story. And so, we see Japan dealing with this by basically buying up sovereign debt, buying up their stock market, basically starting to own the companies themselves. And what did Trump do just the other day? Well, he owns 10%, or I guess the US government now owns 10% of Intel. And again, he says that he wants to do more deals like the one he just did with Intel, where again, they took a 10% stake in the chip maker. And there's, lots of rumblings. He's probably not going to stop there. But again, the US government starting to own individual stocks is pretty wild. And so there's kind of two things that I consider in this. Like, one is like they're doing a lot to kind of to begin propping things up. Some of the cracks are showing, not as heavily in the US as in a place like Japan, but there's still indicators there. But when it pertains to the Bitcoin reserve, like, does that fix it? And I'm going to say no, but it does potentially kick the can down the road, because the underlying, like, it might fix the symptoms for a while, but the disease itself is government spending and an inability to actually budget and live within one's means. This is the problem. And the government cannot stop themselves from overspending. And so even if any country establishes a strategic reserve, at the end of the day, they're going to overspend. As long as they can print money to paper it over, they will. But at some point, people stop accepting your toilet paper as payment. And when that happens, they're going to have to start using real money, Bitcoin. And they will piss it all away. I very much believe that. So, but what does that kind of strategy look like moving forward? Could it, in the end, let's say in Japan, result in a 6102 of their version of MicroStrategy, their meta planet? Does that come to fruition? And for that matter, does strategy itself get 6102'd? And I don't fully know the answer, but I mean, the beginnings are there of acquiring. And you made a good point earlier as well about potential tactics in this realm. Like, I want to get your general thoughts
Man,
here.
I got
What do
Yeah,
you
I got
think?
so
What
much
do
to
you
toss in
think?
there. But yeah, that was if they're publicly traded companies, right? They're already publicly traded companies. The easiest way to acquire that Bitcoin is just to buy the company. You could just essentially go out there on the market, print your yen or print your dollars and get it, and then just acquire the Bitcoin in that sort of sense. So definitely concerning. I always don't like to see any sort of government ownership of private companies. I'm pretty sure there's a word for that, and usually it gets thrown around quite often. But in this case, it's kind of actually moving down that definitional role. There are a few things that stood out to me. One was that the 3% interest rate that would basically like collapse Japan. We have a major issue where then debt servicing has exceeded tax revenue. Currently, the lowest point on the US yield curve is sitting at, I think, 3.59 earlier today, and that was at the 3-year treasury. So if they had interest rates at the lowest point at the US current debt interest rates, they would be just absolutely hooped. Just for context on that. Additionally, it's like, yeah, Bitcoin is not going to save Japan, but it could save the Japanese citizens. And hopefully, for me, really personally, I hope it saves Nintendo. So if Nintendo could start accepting Bitcoin for Mario Kart, that would be wonderful. That would make my weekends with the kids a lot more fun and much appreciated there. But the other thing is that it like going back to that, what is it, like 250% debt to GDP? They've well exceeded that 130%. It hasn't come at no cost, right? It seems like, oh, there's something magical about the yen carry trade, they're debt issuer for the world, and they're the one that they figured out a way that they could do this. But I went back and I looked at the Nikkei priced in gold. And the chart I could only find goes back to 2016. And just using that as kind of like a, a kind of, what to say, a rough indicator for their economic growth. The Nikkei priced in gold is at the same place it was at the start of that chart in 2016. It's been up and down, but it's on the downside right now and relatively flat. So they've had this almost lost, what would that be, lost decade where they've had really no productivity growth, no gains in the market. It's coming at the cost of destroying their currency. And lastly, that I just got to point out, because again, we didn't even necessarily illustrate it. One, they're going to print, it's going to flow into assets. It's going to flow into Bitcoin. That's how this all connects. One currency failing is Bitcoin's win, right? It's not Bitcoin going up. It's everything else going down, people figuring out and then joining the network. But looking at the yen, you are pricing the yen in the US dollar. So the yen sucks in the US dollar, but the US dollar itself also sucks. So it's even worse than that illustrates because it already has the US inflation baked in as well. It's even worse. It's worse than it looks.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I mean, all of this stuff, Japan, but getting into the US side of things, um, it's just scratching the surface of a number of things that have happened recently that are beginning to erode trust in all of the institutions. And we're going to be touching on that momentarily. There's so much that has happened very, very recently, but I mean, even just leading up to it in this past, what, not even full year, um, like the Fed is having issues, namely from this administration undermining it and calling into question its independence, and people, everyday people, are starting to be like, how does this work? And we're going to touch on a few things that happened just in this past week on stateside that I think is really going to make people question, like, is this the beginning of the end? Like, is this where the fourth turning comes about? And if anybody hasn't read The Fourth Turning, I highly recommend it. It is a staple of Bitcoin education, even though it was written before Bitcoin. And to that point, anybody that is here new to the channel, we hope you're enjoying the conversation. All of this is important, um, namely because as this crumbles, Bitcoin is the lifeboat, and we want people to be on the lifeboat, and we want them to do it right. And so we obviously focus on education and making sure that people can not only obtain Bitcoin, but secure it themselves in a self-sovereign way. And we'll be touching on a number of different ways to do that, and always providing resources. But if you get the chance, head over to our Bitcoiner Zero to Hero page, the Learn page over at btcsessions.ca. There's a QR code right there. You can scan it, and you can just get started with free step-by-step tutorials. Get your first Bitcoin wallet, learn how to obtain it, secure it with hardware, all kinds of great stuff there. Highly recommend. And if you ever need some one-on-one help, of course, myself, Nathan, Gary, bunch of others on the team. Bitcoin Mentor, we got you covered. If you need a little bit of premium one-on-one, we can handle it there too. But Nathan, we're gonna discuss the further shitification of what's going on stateside as well, and we'll do that right after the break. But we're going to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. If you're enjoying the convo, everybody, make sure you give that like button a tap, and we'll see you in just 1 minute. Bitcoin Well is the best place to be buying and selling Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And now with Bitcoin Well Infinite, it's also the best place to be making large buys at their OTC desk of over $50,000. Their white glove service gives you fast transactions, no slippage, and the lowest fees. You can scan the QR code on the screen or simply head to bitcoinwell.com/BTC Sessions to sign up today. And you can share your own personalized referral link to earn commissions.
If you've been around Bitcoin for more than a minute, you've definitely seen something made by CryptoCloaks. Since 2017, they've been the go-to for badass 3D printed Bitcoin gear, from custom home mining rigs to sleek hardware wallet mounts that make your setup look pro. I've been stacking Cloaks gear for years, and most recently I grabbed their Gamma case for my miner. Let me tell you, it turns some heads. You can customize everything, and of course, the legendary Bitcoin grenade, yeah, that's them. Hit the link in the show notes or scan the QR code to visit CryptoCloaks.com and stack your own custom Cloaks gear today.
DEBIFI is the best and easiest way to borrow against your Bitcoin in a non-custodial way. Funds are held in a multisig escrow where you hold a key, and the platform allows for excellent hardware like the Cold Card Mark IV and the Q. You have access to flexible conditions, the best rates, and institutional grade liquidity. If you're looking to make use of your capital, don't sell your Bitcoin, borrow against it. You can head over to debify.com to check them out, or simply scan the QR code on the screen. All right, we are back in. We're going to give away some sats really quick here before we start chatting about stateside stuff. Of course, I'm over here on Bitcoin Well. Anybody new to the channel, by the way, Bitcoin Well, awesome place to buy Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And they have this Bitcoin wishing well, the point system. When you sign up, when you buy Bitcoin, when you refer friends, you earn points, and you can use those points to either grab yourself some awesome Bitcoin swag, or you can toss a coin into the well and have a chance to win up to 1 million sats every time. So anybody that's watching, all you need is a Lightning wallet. And I'm going to toss a coin in the well. And the first person to scan the QR code that pops up, they will steal the sats from everyone else. So you got to be pretty quick on the draw. So there we have it, 625 sats. Whoever scans that first with their Bitcoin Lightning wallet will be able to redeem it to their own wallet. And if you do grab it, let us know in the comments or the live stream chat. But with that, let's chat stateside. What's been going on? There's an interesting move earlier this week with Fed Chair Powell. So Powell said the Fed has adopted a new framework that removes a reference to the central bank seeking inflation that averages 2% over time, and one to it making decisions on employment based on shortfalls from its maximum level. Steve Saretsky here said the Fed is effectively abandoning the 2% inflation target, and they're not even hiding it anymore. Now, there's some nuance to this. What was the policy before? They went a little loosey-goosey over COVID, and they basically said, because inflation was undershooting at that time, and they were like, well, we're going to allow inflation to run hot to make up for times when inflation is low, so it averages out to 2%. What ended up happening, of course, was inflation rates of 6-7% and beyond. And so now they're getting rid of that policy to allow it to run hot, but it's not the average 2% inflation anymore. They've removed that language. And so this can be interpreted two ways. They're going back to like a more steady 2% inflation. But the other thing that, Nathan, you were saying is this gives them an out in and around being able to reduce interest rates because they no longer have to account for the average that they had been tracking. Do you want to maybe tie into
Yeah, of
that a
course. So
little
they're
bit?
just basically moving the goalpost to whatever suits their needs of the day to the best of their ability. Where the previous way that they were measuring out, they had to account for the massive inflation that happened in the past. It was rear facing to some extent, looking at the averages, which kind of held them to a higher rates position and could also at the time be used to justify maintaining the higher rates. Now they were seeing Fed after Jackson Hole, and it seems like from the pressure kind of coming around, or maybe they're seeing problems in the employment market coming around to wanting to lower rates. By doing this, they're basically saying, okay, we're looking at the data today. We can kind of look out a bit forward, and inflation has been coming down. I mean, we've had ups and downs, but if you go over back the past year, it's generally even core measures have been coming down, roughly speaking. So this sets them up to no longer have to worry about the previously high inflation, and it gives them the ability to kind of respond to the data of the day and focus more on employment as the second mandate. So Steve's right here. They're basically setting themselves up to for justification to cut, saying that we don't have to worry about undoing the high inflation rate that happened previously. We can ignore that, just look at the current data and move forward. And they will keep doing this. They will always do this. It's like the rebalancing of the inflation baskets. Like, oh, steak went too high. We're going to substitute steak with ground beef because that's the same thing, right? They're statisticians. They will play with the numbers to give them the answer that they want so they can go ahead and do what they were already going to do anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. The economic reality, it's in no way tracking standard of living or anything like that. It's just, we need to look like we have credibility. And so we will make the numbers say the thing we want. But the credibility seems to be waning. I was talking about that there's seems to be heavy fourth turning vibes right now. And so I just want to kind of outline first this fourth turning. So this was written in the 90s by William Strauss and Neil Howe. And I just pulled this up, what the fourth turning says about a loss of trust in institutions. So basically the idea is that there's these ebbs and flows to history, and kind of you have like a great awakening, and you have all of these different kind of generational based periods over typically around an 80-year span. And depending on where you're born in that cycle, you're going to respond differently to your stimuli around you, to environmental factors. And so their generational theory suggests a loss of trust in institutions is a hallmark of the fourth turning, a period of crisis and destruction where institutional life is dismantled and rebuilt in response to a threat to national survival. During this era, which culminates in societal reset, institutions are seen as failed and must be destroyed and reformed. Key aspects of the theory regarding institutional trust during the fourth turning. The theory posits that institutions, which are typically strong and stable during other phases of the cycle, are perceived as failing or corrupt. The loss of faith leads to destruction of existing institutional structures, and this destruction is not random, but is a response to a perceived threat to the nation's survival, such as war or revolution. And the ultimate goal of this destructive process is to create new institutional structures that are better equipped to handle the challenges of the crisis, and that can lead to a new social order. Funny enough, the existing administration seems dead set on destroying trust in institutions. Just this week, Trump administration live updates. He fired a Fed governor. And so the Fed governor now is suing the president over unprecedented and illegal firing. So he said that this was over mortgage fraud and stuff like that. She doesn't have any formal charges or anything like that against her. There's been a lot of back and forth, but the long and the short of it, without going deep into the specifics of the story, is Trump is going and firing Fed governors, and they are meant to be an independent entity. They are not government. They are their own private thing. Now, in response to this, furthermore, this is again, this was earlier in the month, but a vacancy on the Fed is opening early as Trump urges board to assume control if Powell doesn't cut rates. So he's basically telling the Fed, like, if Jerome Powell doesn't do what I want the entire board to basically mutiny and do what I want. And so he is pushing hard for the Fed to do exactly what he wants. Powell seems to be the holdout. There's been some dissenting voices from within the Fed itself. Furthermore to that, and we're just going to keep piling it on. Shout out to bitcoinnews.com for the clip here. This was just the other day. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary. I have called for an internal review of all the Fed's operations. And this is the kind of thing that needs to be addressed because the Fed is an unaccountable institution, further sowing doubt and questioning the Fed, which absolutely, yes. It's just ironic that it's coming from the US government itself, because I kind of feel like, Trump wants control. He wants to look good. He wants to be able to drop interest rates and have the economy boom. In the process, he's destroying the credibility of the thing that gives him all that power in the first place. It's kind of like a foot gun moment of, I don't think he realizes that as soon as people don't trust in the existing infrastructure, that power begins to wane. And he's doing it in more places than one. Again, he fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and he installed the new commissioner, who is a critic of the BLS. This was in response to jobs revisions that didn't look good for his administration. Now, he said that it was basically cooked up. The numbers were meant, it was a political move. It was meant to make him look bad. I'm going to call bullshit on that, because this happened throughout the entire Biden administration too. Now, what I will say the difference is that CNN didn't typically cover those revisions when it was Biden, right? Like it was like, everything's great. Let's look at the current numbers. Don't look back at the revisions that show how horrible shit is. It was equally bad. It's just, Trump doesn't like it when CNN can point to bad numbers and has fodder. So here's the jobs. July, only 73,000 jobs added, and they revised May and June down by a combined 258,000 jobs. So clearly, again, like the data just bad in general. Now, on the opposite side of the spectrum, like some of the positives that seem to not be reflecting average life for your average American, the GDP growth is up to 3.3%, the best quarter since 2023. And then, of course, the stock market reaches most expensive valuation ever, surpasses the dot-com bubble and pre-Great Depression levels. So, I mean, all around, I'm getting hard, nothing stops this train vibes. It's like, at all costs, we're gonna bake numbers, print money, pump stocks, own stocks on behalf of the government, whatever it takes to make this look good, to make it look great on paper, is what will be done. So I don't know, Nathan, how are you feeling about all of this?
Oh, I absolutely love it, Ben. It's so much fun. I'm immediately reminded of two memes. One is the guy taking a big bong rip while two women are fighting. I love seeing the Fed and the US government, and basically same sort of thing with the monkey knife fights. Like, yes, my enemies, the people I don't like, please fight for my entertainment while I put everything into Bitcoin and I'll be just fine. But you're right. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we referenced a conversation that Ray Dalio had talking about the credit cycles. Very much a kind of similar idea of the cyclical pattern. And again, it would make sense that credit being a human instrument would follow kind of a fourth turning pattern as well too, that they would have some perhaps overlap there. And he cited that quantitative easing, I believe, was one, and the other one was the government taking control over the central bank was a major red flag alarms going off. We're coming to the end of the credit cycle here. So we're all setting up for that. And I want to point out too that regarding both the US dollar, the yen, and even Bitcoin, there is a psychological impact, a psychological factor when it comes to money. That hyperinflation isn't necessarily a trigger that happens from some sort of mechanical reason. It is a loss of faith. Value is subjective. And if that subjective value, that faith that your dollar will have value the next day comes into question, that's when everybody runs for the exits and we get this mass stampede event out. Who knows when that moment will happen? But the more you see this sort of thing, it's just more evidence piling on. The question is, when does the greater population basically wake up to it? Japan, I'd argue, is a little bit closer, and then the US is not necessarily far behind. And again, I'm not surprised to see stocks at, all-time highs and things ripping. It's like, yeah, because you're measuring them in dollars. M2 money supply is up. You're debasing the currency. The government is directly buying companies now. You're issuing unbelievable amounts of debt, and we know you're going to issue more. You're setting up to print like nobody's business because you can't possibly service the debt wall that's coming at you full steam ahead. So yeah, the bond market is selling off at the long end in multiple different places around the world because it's either inflation, it's risk and inflation expectations, and it's going to flow into hard assets. Most people are still sitting in stocks. That's where they think it's a safe place to be. They're going to learn that lesson, and it's coming to Bitcoin too.
Yeah, 100%. It's just it's wild because I watch all this news and having read The Fourth Turning, a few years back, and then seeing all these things begin to come to fruition, kind of how it's laid out in the book is you recognize the signs, but to see it actually happen is like a whole different ball game. And I do believe that obviously things are already broken, but I don't think it's long. I think the latter half of the 2020s is going to be an interesting ride, and I think we all need to really hunker down and get some generational wealth so that we can weather this storm, because it's not going to be pretty for a lot of different things. And I don't know if I could recommend one other book to go check out. And I'm not saying that it'll be exactly this, but go read When Money Dies. It's about Weimar Germany and the hyperinflation that happened there, and the confusion in markets in and around where value truly was and like how to allocate in those scenarios. Even if you look at the gold chart, then it was like this, like generally up and to the right, but it was volatile as shit because nobody knew how to price anything. It was crazy. So, when the dollar is your measuring stick and the dollar's broken as it is, it's really hard to figure out how to price things. So
and I gotta add to that too, because you bring up a very interesting point going back to Weimar and When Money Dies, is that happened. When that happened, it wasn't a world with the same sort of global connectivity that we have today. And so while that may have happened in Germany, it didn't necessarily impact the US. That's not the case anymore. There's so much, basically all the markets have basically synchronized. We have money flowing across borders that if the UK, their gilts are up really high again too, higher than the Liz Truss moment we had a couple of years back. If Japan has a sovereign debt crisis, if the UK has a sovereign debt crisis, even maybe not so much Canada, and Canada's a little bit awful, maybe even Canada, it's not contained. It's not isolated anymore. It will have profound impacts and spill out across the globe because we live in this, highly globalized market.
Yep, absolutely. Now we're going to make a jump in a moment and discuss one of the other topics. We're going to change gears a little bit because I want to get to this Android news. This sounds insane to me. That basically to be a developer and create an app, you have to be KYC'd. You have to give up all your private information, and that they may begin, well, there's already plans in certain regions to begin cracking down. Even if you try to install an app that is side-loaded, so not through the official app store, it will still have to be from an approved KYC source, which is crazy on your own hardware. I know that already exists on iPhones, but that's why I don't have an iPhone. So anyways, we're going to get into that in just a moment. If you're enjoying the show, please do drop a like, smash that like button, and stick around, especially those newbies of you. Welcome again, because we're going to talk about some great tools that you should probably take a look at to prepare for this and many other things. We will see you guys in just a moment.
Looking for a simple and secure way to manage your Bitcoin on mobile? AQUA Wallet has you covered. It's user-friendly and puts you in full control of your Bitcoin with secure self-custody. AQUA also supports Lightning and Liquid Network, making fast, cheap Bitcoin payments and asset transfers easier than ever. Plus, it even supports stablecoins, giving you ultimate flexibility. Built on open source code, AQUA is transparent, trustworthy, and perfect for beginner and pros alike. Ready to upgrade your Bitcoin experience? Click the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen now to download AQUA Wallet today. Securing your Bitcoin doesn't have to be complicated or invasive. With NUNCHUK's HONEYBADGER plan, you get state-of-the-art multisig with built-in inheritance planning and no KYC required. NUNCHUK is trusted by users to secure billions of dollars in Bitcoin. The HONEYBADGER plan offers 204 assisted multisig, guiding you step-by-step on mobile or desktop. It works seamlessly with hardware wallets like TapSigner, ColdCard, Jade, and plenty of others, so you're always in control. Plus, with non-KYC inheritance planning, you can ensure your Bitcoin goes to your loved ones. No private info needed. Take control of your Bitcoin today. Click the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen to check out the HONEYBADGER plan. CoinKite has been in the game for years, creating hands down the best and most secure hardware when it comes to securing your Bitcoin. The ColdCard Q is an absolute powerhouse and my daily driver, and it's ideal for newcomers and advanced users alike. The TapSigner gives you a low-cost, user-friendly option for those just getting started or for convenience when traveling. You can head to coinkite.com and use code BTC Sessions for discounts, or simply scan the QR code on the screen to get started right away.
All right, we're back in. Let's tackle this crazy Android news. I mean, if you're on an iPhone right now, you're already used to, the company that manufactures your phone and the firmware telling you what to do.
Oh.
And I was one of those people for years. And funny enough, when years back, the iPhone App Store banned Bitcoin wallets for a short period of time. And that was my moment that I actually jumped to Android, and I was like, screw this. And I actually never went back. So like when it comes to phones, Apple literally lost a customer for life because of that one moment. And I went to Android. And this might be one of those moments where I start using different firmware on phones entirely. And I've got to do some shopping around. I got to figure out what I'm going to do here, because this doesn't sound good. So Pirate Nation, they tweeted out, they said, Google is locking down Android from September 2026. All apps, including those outside the Play Store, must come from verified developers. No more anonymous sideloads, no quick comebacks for malware gangs. First, Brazil, Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand. Wild. Here is our very own TC. Shout out to TC. He got this mail from Google Play. Hello, Google Play developer. We're writing to update you that Google will be introducing new Android requirements for developers to verify their identity and app ownership. Android is adding another layer of security to make installing apps safer for everyone and better protect users from malware and scams. You know, it's nice not to have malware, but at what cost? As a developer distributing Android apps through the Google Play Store, you will be required to follow these requirements and complete them through the Play Console. New Android developer verification requirements. Again, you must verify identity. You have to register your apps after the fact. Timeline. October 2025, early access begins and invitations gradually roll out. Verification begins for all developers in March. In 2026, September, consumers using certified Android devices will only be able to install registered apps from verified developers in those 4 jurisdictions I mentioned: Brazil, Singapore, Thailand, and Indonesia. You better believe that's coming to other jurisdictions shortly thereafter. This is not going to be an isolated thing. This sucks, man. What are your thoughts here?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, it's not like you can't, like, we can verify with signatures. You can verify the developer is who they are by just verifying the software. So it seems completely unnecessary. And again, the first thing that hits me is this idea of personal responsibility. So once again, for people's online security and privacy, they're outsourcing that to Google, to Apple. We saw the fake Sparrow app that was on the Apple App Store just a couple weeks back here. Dude lost like 7+ Bitcoin. That if you're going to outsource your health, your well-being, your finances, even your like online safety and security to other people, they're going to have to take totalitarian measures basically in order to try and achieve that for you. There's no getting out of this, right? So I hate to see this, but it's always kind of expected. I would really love, and I would hope this too, that this reminds me of the you will own nothing and you will be happy. Fuck off, Google. I would like to own things again. I would like to own my consoles, own my video games, own my software, own the equipment that I've paid for. And I really hope, but I don't think it's necessarily going to happen, that this kind of like right to install what you want, right to use as you see fit. I'd love to see people try and tie up Google and Apple in the court system and just get them to back off. That like once I've purchased the software, it's mine. Once I've bought the phone, it's mine. If I want to sideload things into it, I have the right to do so because you no longer own the property.
Yeah, there's a couple of good comments from Sam Adams in the live chat. He said de-Google phones and cars. Cars is a good point because all the new vehicles have kill switches, and what has been one of the best selling trucks that I don't even think you can get in the US is that Toyota with nothing. It's like bare bones, no electronics, no kill switch. It's literally just a car with a motor. People want it, and it's cheap too.
10 grand. It's 10 grand and it's beautiful. It'll probably last like 400,000 clicks. Yeah.
And the other thing, just to shout out Sam Adams again, he said, do we need Jack Dorsey to start working on a phone? we were covering Dorsey last week and all his stuff that he's been building out, perhaps to overcorrect for all the censorship that took place on Twitter before his departure. But he's doing the bit chat, he's open source, well, not fully open source, but like he's trying to get alternatives for miners. He just announced his mining rig that he put out. He's doing like Bitcoin wallets for activists. He's doing all this different stuff. So yeah, sure. I wouldn't mind a Jack Dorsey working on a phone that can actually be open and not subject to this BS. But I mean, there are options out there. So maybe I wouldn't mind touching on just a couple things that people can do. And I guess we're gonna refer to Graphene OS, right?
Yep.
Like this is basically you de-Googling your phone, and it's not. I'm gonna say it's not like for your average person. It's not gonna be super easy, right? Like you gotta like get it plugged into a device. You gotta typically you're using like command line. Most people, they see a command line window and they're like, I'm out. I'm not gonna touch it. So I think maybe us doing some tutorials on that is in line. Like everything seems to indicate that the mobile experience is going to be less and less free over time. So
Agreed.
Yeah. And now once you're on Graphene, or I mean, Calyx is another example, although they're currently like updating their libraries and stuff. So that's a little ways out. There's also, I think, PinePhone, Pine 64. They do like Linux distros and all that kind of stuff. And laptops, but they have basically, again, same kind of thing, like an open, privacy focused mobile option. But nonetheless, once you're on something like Graphene, you can install alternative app stores. You can do it on Android right now. Like there are other Obtainium is one that Seth for Privacy mentioned to me. The Zap Store, which is Nostr integrated. Again, further pointing out the fact that you don't need to verify the identity of developers with ID. The Zap Store, it's tied to an npub. So somebody's key pair, they verify the upload themselves with that, which is amazing. But yeah, they're just going about it the total opposite way of what I think it should be. So either way, be aware. I'll get to work on graphene here and try and get a video out now that I'm going to be home for the fall.
Hey.
So with that, any other thoughts, Nathan, before
No, I
I
was
dive
just
into?
gonna say, you get like the phone companies throw a new phone at you every couple of years at no cost. Maybe you just take the old one to the new one and you have that be the de-Googled one. And then you've got both on hand. You could get some apps and things loaded in there beforehand. You could get familiar with it, get used to it. And you just have it as a backup tool that really didn't cost you anything if you're going to get a new phone anyway. So I think it's definitely worth pursuing. And then I was also kind of wondering in the back of my mind, like, how do I go back to getting software on CDs? Like, can I just get some sort of like CD drive that plugs into my phone and I'll put apps on that way? Because when that stuff used to ship, it actually worked.
Yeah.
And it was mine and I could share it.
I know. Yeah. I'm really starting to feel the whole you will own nothing and be happy. it's I mean, with the new, even just like I'm getting derailed here, but the new Nintendo Switch, the cartridges aren't even the game. It's like a key that allows you to unlock the software on their server. It's it's like, this is, if there was ever if there was an ever like a draconian indication of where we're headed, it's look to Nintendo.
Yeah, I do. I love those games. I love those games. Come on, Nintendo. Give me the cartridge with the full damn thing on it that I can share it with my neighbor. We can trade over the fence.
Yeah. Nintendo 64 games still work just fine.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue on. Nathan, I'm going to need you to illuminate me on what the hell just happened. Everybody, my feed is angry. People are upset. Something has happened in the realm of Bitcoin Core versus Bitcoin Knots. There was something that happened. Those that are running Bitcoin Knots, which is an alternative to Bitcoin Core, if perhaps you don't like the development trajectory of Bitcoin Core, you have another option in Bitcoin Knots, running that as a Bitcoin node. And there was some type of an attack, an exploitation. Do you want to dive into what exactly is going on?
Yeah, I'll do the best I can. Of course, I'm not the most technical person in the space, but I'll give you my kind of initial thoughts on it. That, again, things are getting really personal and kind of heated. And I understand that because when we're dealing with fix the money, fix the world, the stakes are incredibly high. So whether or not you agree with someone's evaluation, it's going to be really emotionally charged kind of subject. And so what we saw was that we had some people, we'll say from Team Core, that were basically doing a DDoS attack, a denial of service attack on NOTS nodes. And I believe they were specifically targeting Comcast users. And essentially what they were doing was they were going in there and just requesting the initial block download from those nodes over and over and over again. Eat up bandwidth, eat up kind of its throughput, but most importantly, particularly for the Comcast users, I believe they have a data cap limit. And so the idea was kind of like your cell phone usually, I don't know, if you're in Canada, they had like terrible data limits for so long, but basically trying to eat up their allotment for data that month. And so that they either get additional fees from Comcast or basically their internet's kind of shut off or they can't use it for the time being. Now, not the end of the world. You can go in there. I think it's max upload target is the setting on NOTS nodes that you can go in there and you can set a daily limit for how much that they will be able to upload or share at that point. Which is, and I believe it's quite easy to do on Umbrel and directly if you're running it on like a Linux client on just a laptop or something, but a little bit harder in Start 9. You have to go into the SSH. But the thing about it that I found really kind of disheartening, it was a little bit disappointing just from the personal take on it, is, again, it's not the end of the world, right? Again, it's relatively harmless, all things considered, but at least it shows a vulnerability. And hey, maybe you got to set that max upload limit on your setup there if you're a publicly available node. But what I found really disheartening is that out of all the drama, out of all the kind of core versus not stuff going on there, I think the best thing that's come out of it is it's kind of pulled people away from the sidelines. People that were thinking about running a node now are feeling more compelled to do so. And I think you have a lot more new users coming in, turning one on, plugging in, wanting to participate. And I would hate to see anything that would discourage someone who's not very tech savvy, really new to the space, just getting going from running it, regardless of which version or which client they want to run or what they think is the best kind of way to go about it. I always want to see the number of nodes on the network growing. I want to see more people going out there and running a full node. And I would just hate for infighting to result in people basically thinking that they can't do it or it's risky or kind of getting away from it. So that was the one thing that's like, we can have our disagreements, but if we start attacking across the aisle kind of like that, we don't want to discourage people from participating in Bitcoin, even if we think that they're wrong, regardless of what side you're on. That's my very, very like political take on it. Regardless of which side you're on, let's encourage people to run a node.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I'd say if you're watching this and you're like, well, I don't know, but it's really it's not too much of a technical undertaking. And if you want to dive in, you can absolutely go just check on the channel. You can easily find a number of different videos on how to run a node. So I've got a video on Umbrel, which is more recent. I've got an older one on Start 9. I will do a new one when they do their update eventually. And then if you're looking to run Bitcoin knots, again, I did a video on how to either from scratch or change from core to knots if you opt to do so, and how to do that on Umbrel, on Start 9, and just on desktop. Like if you don't want to buy a dedicated box that sits on your shelf, you can just go and you can download the client on your desktop and just install it that way and link your wallets to it. So, it's a really great learning tool. It's awesome to see more people learning nodes. I think that knots video that I did got like tens of thousands of views, which is crazy. I thought it was so niche, but yeah, I mean, people wanted to see it. It indicates that people have an interest in it, and people, and it's also kind of an indication like, well, I don't know if knots will get to be, like how much of a threshold they'll get to in terms of percentage of total nodes. So I think we're sitting, what did you say,
17.8 or something? We're creeping up on 18%. I believe Bitcoin Core fell below 82% for the first time ever.
Yeah. So if anything, it's also just a mechanism to communicate to people, like to developers, what your preference is. And even if it doesn't take a commanding role as like the predominant implementation, it still is an indicator of like, hey, like, maybe I don't like the trajectory of development, and I'm voicing that by running this node. It's just a communication method at the very least.
I'd even add to that too, like, Bitcoin is like a forever learning trajectory. There's always so much that you have to pick up on and so much to learn. So I would even encourage people, don't think that you have to have a firm understanding or make up your mind exactly on which one you want to support. You can kind of just start moving in the space. One, you could run an older client. There's no reason you can't run anything like 27 or earlier. There's nothing wrong with that. And you can always change, right? You could come in, you could fire up a knots node, and you can go, wait a minute, I think I kind of go with the other guys. I'm going to switch to core. That's not difficult to do. And vice versa, right? I would just encourage people that even if you don't know which one is the best, even if you don't have necessarily the technical understanding to be able to parse that out at this point, it's a great learning tool. And just start, man. You can always pivot.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, in the end, run a node. Okay, let's move on. This is really cool, actually. We're big fans of NUNCHUK here on the channel. I, for my day-to-day, for watch-only wallets, I use them. I've got, I use them for multisig stuff. And actually, we used them for a really cool, we had our Bitcoin Survivor workshop in the mountains just in June. And we did like group multi-sig wallets and everything. Super cool. But they just added MiniScript. So what in the hell is this? Let's just read the TLDR on what's going on. So MiniScript, it turns Bitcoin's built-in rules like signatures, time locks, all this stuff into safe composable building blocks. MiniScript and NUNCHUK, not just a few pre-baked scripts. So not just like some general, cookie cutter options. You can create any policy that fits standard Bitcoin policy rules. You can do group wallets that are MiniScript ready. And then there's a few other more technical things here, but the long and the short of it is what MiniScript allows you to do is to create conditions under which the Bitcoin can be spent. And so an example of this is maybe you have like a digital vault that you want for inheritance. And you set it up so that your digital vault has 3 possible keys, and at least 2 of them are required to unlock the money. So that is a common setup that someone might do for long-term savings, and they have the keys in different locations. And that prevents somebody from stumbling across a key and being able to access your money with just one. And so that's very, very secure and helpful. But maybe you want your next of kin to have an easier time accessing that money at some point in the future. And you're like, oh God, they're going to have to deal with like multiple keys and multiple locations and how to deal with it. Oh, that's going to be so horrible. What you could do is you could bake in a fourth key that they hold, and at some point that multi-sig setup just deprecates into their one key will now work to unlock the money. This is just a very simplistic explanation of like, yeah, you had a vault and now all of a sudden there's like an extra key that will work to unlock the vault. But you can do all of these. If this happens, then this will work. If this happens after this amount of time, then this will work. And you can do it in any iteration that you want. So it just gives you so much control and creativity over how you, and it's really up to you, which is super, super awesome. So I'm excited to play with this.
Oh, me too, man. I love it. It's funny. I think we're in a bull market. I think the bull market's going to keep raging on, essentially. But I'm seeing people are almost building like it's a bear market. We got Jack's modular mining unit, and we've got Miniscript being added to things like Nunchuk here as well too. We had the bit chat coming out here. I'm seeing more and more with Cashew and with Fedimins and things as well. And Fedimins now on Start 9. Like, I'm seeing all the builders in the space like coming out with great tools often. I mean, even just this year, we had, I think, Cosign and Key Teleport added to Cold Card. Like, you would think we were in the throes of a bear market and everyone was just building like crazy with everything that we're seeing come out. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. And again, Nunchuk is they've been really working hard on a lot of stuff. And I've got to say, like, the experience just within the wallet, even just for like the non-subscription, non-inheritance related stuff, is just so smooth. Like, I was super impressed when we did the group multi-sig wallets for the,
and that's
for
free.
The workshop.
If you got some buddies into Bitcoin, you can do a group multi-sig on Nunchuk with like encrypted chat between you guys for free.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's super cool. So anyways, hats off to Nunchuk. They're killing it. Super excited to try this feature. Now, I did want to mention that it did drop a tutorial earlier this week. Speaking of totalitarian hellholes that try to clamp down on you and prevent you from doing things, if that were to ever happen and you couldn't, buy a cold card or something like that, the Seed Signer project, also shout out to Crux for doing a similar vein, but I did a new video on the Seed Signer, how to basically build it, set it up, use it as a signing device, which nobody knows you have. You can build it from run-of-the-mill parts. And I did the new Seed Signer Plus, which is a larger form factor, larger screen and everything, built the thing, put the firmware on it, and then showed how to create a seed, how to link it with Sparrow on your desktop, how to send and receive Bitcoin with it, how to do multi-sig, and then some other advanced features, passphrases, BIP85, all of it. So yeah, that was a lot of fun to play with. And it's really cool, kind of like the different form factor too. I'm interested to see if they do the fancy, the like brushed aluminum casing for the large one as well, because that was pretty slick. So I don't know, Nathan, have you played much with Seed Signer?
I have not. I want to get the new one to it. I'm now realizing, looking at it, because it's a nice big one as well. I just realized that is the orange suppository. Everyone comes, I just realized that the Seed Signer, I think, is the orange suppository that everyone will get one way or the other.
Yep, 100%. So maybe if it's a suppository, get the smaller form factor. Go for that. Yeah. I want to jump ahead here. Cashew, if anybody's unfamiliar, Cashew, basically a layered approach to ultra private Bitcoin transactions. There's a trade-off there in the way that it's custodied, but for small amounts, Cashew is great. It's an eCash system atop Bitcoin. Works with Lightning. Previously, Bolt 11. Now it has implemented Bolt 12, which gives additional privacy benefits. So really, really cool. One QR code that can be paid multiple times. So singular payment addresses, so you don't have to generate an invoice every single time. Super cool. Yeah, really awesome. Again, Nathan, are you a cashew fan? Do you like playing
I
around
do.
with it?
I'm kind of everything on the layered side is kind of growing on me too. Like I use Lightning and Liquid, and I use eCash as well. The interoperability between them, I'm very much coming around. I view it that Lightning is largely going to be kind of a network grouping these things all together, but I think most people will exist kind of using Cashew, and there are some great reasons to use, particularly for small amounts and the privacy gain with them, for using eCash systems. I mean, you combine that with Art coming out as well too, that I'm really, really, really bullish on the higher order layers for Bitcoin and what's being made there.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Now, Nathan, I'm going to stick with you for a second because lately we've been on a tear with reasons Canada can suck, and this one you just sent to me shortly before we started up. Do you want to do a little rip on the latest in True North Strong and Free?
Yeah, it's funny enough that when you have a whole bunch of regulations and you block people being able to develop resources and get them to market, that the economy would suffer. It would suffer when we're taxed unbelievably high in Alberta. We have to send money to other provinces just to support them and get their votes, just buying across the aisle there, that it's not going to go well. So Canada experiences largest decline in exports in history of the nation in Q2 of 2025. Exports. So Canada, we don't really make anything, but we have a bunch of shit, and now people aren't even buying it apparently at this point as well. So I think that things are going to be really, really, really rough up north here for us in the coming future too. I even saw, I think the GDP, sorry, we had inflation come in like 1.7% under expectations. Canada is slowing down. We have a severely low birth rate. We're trying to correct for immigration, but that has a kind of negative, like, because the immigration was essentially like a human QE coming in.
Yeah.
That I think we are going to be in a world of hurt. And anybody sitting on Canadian dollars, you're just fucked. They are going to print and run this thing up to try and save it to the best of their ability. And I think it's coming a lot faster than people anticipate.
Yeah, our deficits are already worse than they were under Trudeau by like quite a bit.
Yep, they're not even putting out the budget. They're not. It's so bad they're not even going to tell you now. We're just going to spend a shit ton of money and probably basically burn Canada down to the benefit of Europe is kind of what it looks like to me. And it's just, it's not good.
Now, I have one final question for you, Nathan. Are your elbows up?
Oh, yes, of course, because that's the most important thing.
Perfect. I'm glad to hear. Now, I did want to give a shout out. There's something exciting in the works that will be dropping on the channel later this month. And actually, we didn't even announce that it was going to be the show will be happening on this channel, but we want to say a huge welcome to the latest show over on the channel. Bitcoin Boomers podcast is coming to this channel, BTC Sessions. Bitcoin Boomers being Gary Leland, Larry Lepard, and of course Bob Burnett from Barefoot. So I'm very, very excited about this. These guys are awesome. And they're recording their first show soon, and it should be mid-September that we see it drop. It'll be kind of like a once a month special. But yeah, we love these guys. I'm stoked about them being on.
I absolutely love it. I am very excited to have them on, and I think it's going to be a wonderful. It's funny because even on like the education side, I'm talking to a lot more people from an older demographic. They're coming in. The boomers are actually starting to figure it out, and particularly, it's nice to see a lot of them thinking about their grandkids, about their kids, planning for the future. They've got this wealth, and they're realizing they need to protect it, and they're looking at that legacy kind of asset. So, I'm not surprised that these guys were interested in doing this, and I think there's actually a massive audience that is coming to Bitcoin.
Yeah. I'm very, very excited for it. Love all those guys. And then I did want to give a shout out. Obviously, I'm not home right now. I'm currently in Winnipeg. And the reason I'm here is a good friend of mine over the past 20 plus years is getting married. And so I wanted to give a special shout out to my good buddy Dave, Griffin Dave on X, if you want to give him a follow and tell him congratulations. He's getting married tomorrow to his lovely wife to be, Vernell. And yeah, it should be a good time. I'm going to be emceeing the wedding. But yeah, if anybody watching this wants to give some well wishes to @GriffinDave on X and say congrats on the wedding tomorrow, I'm sure he'd love to hear it, and it would be wonderful. So yeah, please do. But with that, I don't know, Nathan, any final things you wanted to touch on before we give the old farewell?
No, I think we're solid. I mean, I had a great conversation with the VJ Boy Party that came out earlier this week. You had a wonderful interview with Safedine. That was just great. Seeing like my personal two favorite educators chatting with one another. It was really uplifting, and it was interesting to get his takes on the whole stablecoin thing and where he sees it going. So 10 out of 10, go check that one out if you haven't watched it yet already.
I also enjoyed his response to Michael Saylor's clear attack on him. If you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure you
coming
tune
out
in.
soon.
Yeah, exactly. And outside of that, everybody that's watching, thank you guys so much for being here, especially any newcomers to the channel. We're very happy to have you. Of course, check out the other resources on the channel, namely the stuff that will help you get self-custody of your Bitcoin and do it right. Again, we always play the clip at the end of the show telling you exactly where to go, but keep your eyes peeled and please do take action. Start right after this show, bookmark a couple videos, always great to do. But with that, I'm out. I'm Ben. This was Nathan, and this was your weekly session. We'll see you guys again soon. Cheers.
Hey, you. Yes, you watching the Bitcoin price movements and the latest exciting news. It's awesome to stay informed, but the real power of Bitcoin comes from taking control. Don't just watch, take action. Head over to btcsessions.ca/learn for free step-by-step tutorials that guide you through every major skill you need to know, plus full video playlists for deeper dives on any topic you like. And if you're ready for the ultimate fast track, scroll to the bottom and check out bitcoinmentor.io for premium one-on-one experience with my team of Bitcoin experts to ensure you get it right the first time. Don't wait. Secure your Bitcoin future today. Hit the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen.